This is DrAlvinCom, the business of wisdom where world leaders and thinkers do come to chat. Very fortunate to have the extraordinary Jennifer Toledo. She has written a very powerful book entitled Children and the Supernatural, True Accounts of Kids Unlocking the Power of God Through Visions, Healings, and Miracles. First of all, Jennifer, tell me something about the Global Children's Movement and also your ministry there, Expression 58.
Sure. Global Children's Movement was really started as a response to children at risk around the world, and has really just developed into, I've got various projects going on, everything from working in war zones and brothels and schools, all kinds of stuff. But what we're really seeing is we have this belief that it's not enough just to put a roof over a kid's head. We want to see them really walk in the fullness of what God has for them and walk out their dreams. And so not only are we seeing kids' natural circumstances transform, but we're also seeing them spiritually really come alive and become, these kind of vessels of healing in their community. So it's been really exciting. And then I also pastor a church here in Los Angeles called Expression 58, and our passion really is just to see love, creativity, and justice. So it's been really exciting.
When it comes to the children that you have featured here in Children in the Supernatural, are these accounts that take place here in America, or are they from all over the world?
You know what? They're from both. They're from all over. And quite honestly, we really don't see a difference between kids in Africa or Asia or here in terms of how they experience God. We definitely see a trend of children all over who are having some pretty incredible encounters with God, hearing God's voice, being used by God, just across the board. It's been really exciting.
At the beginning of the book, you cite a passage from Mark, the 10th chapter, verse 14. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these. Tell me something about the backstory.
Well, what happened is, I was on this journey. My first, I was right out of college several years ago, and had first gone into Africa, and I was spending some time there, and I was sitting down in the dirt with some street kids, and it was one of those moments where God just, I don't know, it was so loud and clear inside of me, and I heard him speak to me, and he said, will you teach the next generation the undiluted gospel? And that rocked my world, and I honestly was like, God, I grew up in the church, but I don't think I know the undiluted gospel, and so I just said, God, okay, if you'll teach me, I'll teach them. And it really began this journey because, I believe in that scripture, when Jesus is saying, don't let the kids be held back from me, that so often in our kind of many times just our westernized Christianity, so much of our expression is just kind of, hey, send the kids off and give them a snack and some games. We're going to have the real church. And I just felt this cry in Jesus' heart that there would be a generation that would really know him on his terms and the fullness of who he is. And so I got so rocked by that when he spoke that to me, and really began this journey of just pouring into this group of kids, most of whom were orphans and street kids and kind of just the down and out. And God began to just really radically encounter these kids. These kids were getting set free and just started, they would weep. They would just be in the presence of God and start to weep and cry out to God. And I had just never seen kids experience God quite like that. And those kids ended up being used to bring transformation to their whole community. I mean, literally, they would pray and fast, and they got a strategy for their city, and they would go into the hospitals. They would do open-air crusades. I mean, little kids. And I was just so humbled to watch the beauty and the power of their relationship with God and the level of fruit that came out of their lives. And we saw incredible things that just, it's hard to even put into words the level of what happened through these kids. But they became, and still are actually, in August next month, we're celebrating 10 years of revival with kids in Kenya from that day of that, when that began to take place. And to this day, these kids are known all over their nation for kids who walk with God. It's pretty incredible.
Well, at the beginning of the book, or at the outset of the book, you say true accounts of kids unlocking the power of God through visions, healings, and miracles. Let's go down those three items. Give me an example of visions that are being experienced by these children.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. One is, just sometimes it's just really simple things. It's just, seeing Jesus in a hard situation. And sometimes it's a really profound thing. Like, I'll give you one example. One little girl was 5 years old. I was teaching this group of kids, and I told them, you guys should start going on dates with Jesus. And they kind of just, laughed or whatever. And I was telling them, you should set aside some time and spend time with him. And this little 5-year-old girl took me very seriously, went home, cleaned her whole room. Parents didn't ask, and I know that's a miracle already. Takes a bath, gets all ready, puts on her best dress, and sets up her little room for this date with Jesus. And she sits there all dressed up, and she says, Jesus, would you please come and sit with me? And she begins to go into this vision, this experience where she sees Jesus walk into her room, and he sits at her little table, and he has tea with her, and they talk. And it so transformed this little girl. The things she heard in that time with Jesus, her parents were, I talked with her parents multiple times, and they were like, there's just no way she could know these things. After this experience, she was saying things out of the Bible, things about God that we've just never even communicated to her. There's no way that 5-year-old could know these things. And so she has this radical encounter with Jesus, and basically Jesus tells her, come outside, I have this treat for you, and takes her outside. And she said, I saw with my eyes, 5 years old, this cutest little thing, I saw with my eyes this flaming carriage, this flaming chariot, and he took me on a ride. And she's telling this whole story, and many people might just write that off as, wow, that was your imagination or something. But it was so transformative for this little girl that now she's 13 years old and continues to have incredible visions and experiences with Jesus. And the whole family's like, we all go on dates now, all of them, because they've been so transformed and a real experience with God. And really, this 5-year-old little girl kicked the door open for them.
Wow, that's an exciting story. Tell me about examples of healings.
Healings, oh my goodness. I love it when God uses kids to heal, because I think sometimes as adults we make things so complicated and we go through our little formulas, and God's like, or I'll just use a kid and make it really simple. We have seen so many beautiful, beautiful ways that God has used kids. One time we went to this hospital in Kenya with a group of children, and we went through, and these kids had such faith, and I was expecting to see really awesome miracles, and quite honestly, I was disappointed. I was like, what the heck? We just prayed for all these people, and people were kind of like, I'm a little bit better, but it was like, God, come on, what's happening? And as we were walking out of the hospital, this little girl, I was holding her hand, she looked up at me with these big eyes, and she just said, wasn't that awesome? And I was thinking, what was awesome, And I said, well, sweetie, tell me what was so awesome. And she said, by tomorrow, all of those people are going to be healed. And I thought, wow, this faith of this child, And I was like, you know what, you're right. Signs and wonders will follow those who believe. Let's just believe that they're going to follow us. You're right. Well, the next day, our team gets a call from the hospital administrator, and we go down, and he's like, who is this God you pray to? And our staff was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he said, I can't even speak to you. Let me show you. And he begins to walk our team through the hospital, and ward after ward is empty. Empty. There was 2 wards that have a few people left in them, but that was it. Doctors and nurses are weeping. You don't have to tell them, hey, you should get saved. It was actually the head matron that was on nurse that day, the matron nurse, she is still working for us on our staff. She was like, I want to come work with you guys, what you're doing with kids. She was so transformed, but such an incredible move of God that day in that hospital. People who were, one particular girl dying of AIDS, last stages of AIDS, and told that she didn't have long to live. She was one of them that got healed. She just literally got up in the middle of the night and was like, I'm better. And they're like, that's not possible. And she was like, no, actually, I'm better. They were testing her body, 0 signs of HIV left in her body, completely healed, and went home in the middle of the night. Just crazy stuff like that. And you're like, how can this even, sometimes when people hear these stories, they're just like, I can't believe that that's possible, And you just go, well, this is God. God can do whatever he wants. God's amazing. God's powerful. And so it's really fun to watch God use these kids to bring healing.
That's so amazing. Children and the Supernatural, true accounts of kids unlocking the power of God through visions, Healings, and Miracles. Give me a final thought. Tell me how to get a copy of this book. Let me know about any website, Facebook, etc. to be a part of your world.
Sure. Yeah, this book can be found at expression58.org. And also you could go to www.gcmovement.org to learn more about our organization and get involved with bringing transformation to children.
Well, thank you so very much for sharing this powerful story and these examples of visions, healings, and miracles. This will be featured at DrAlvinCom, the business of wisdom where world leaders and thinkers do come to chat. Also is featured on Facebook at DrAlvin.com. And you continue to have a remarkable and amazing day, okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Alvin. I appreciate it. You too.
And give my regards to your wonderful family.
Thank you. Thank you.